Hello, everyone. So it is not getting any better in terms of the China virus, which is better known as the coronavirus. Um, I believe it was just a couple of days ago, it had claimed more than 600 lives, and now the numbers are climbing, and now it is at more than 722 and climbing. And it is not getting any better. So China virus toll has now hit 722 with the first foreign victim. And I believe that the numbers are not getting any smaller at this point. So Beijing, the Associated Press out in Beijing, reporting that the death toll from the I'll say the novel coronavirus outbreaks has soared to 722 in China on since Saturday, um, which is, believe it or not, today. So, including the first foreign victim, as Hong Kong imposes a mandatory quarantine now. So now they're on a mandatory quarantine on the mainland, and their rivals are to block the spread of the epidemic that has caused global panic, and which it should, because they have not come up with anything yet. As of yet, I haven't heard that they've come up with anything to stop the spread of this, and that is what is causing a lot of concern. So with now 86 more people dying in the mainland of China, the highest one-day jump so far, the toll was closing in on 700 and now 74 killed worldwide during 2002 to 2003 in the SARS epidemic. And so a 60-year-old U.S. citizen was diagnosed with this virus and had died on Thursday in Wuhan, the city at the epicenter of the health emergency, according to the U.S. Embassy, which did not provide more details about that person. So China's foreign ministry said in a statement to the Associated Press that the victim was a U.S. citizen of the Chinese origin. So the Japanese man in his 60s was a suspected coronavirus infection who had also died in the hospital of Wuhan. The Japanese Foreign Ministry said that, adding that it was difficult to confirm if he had had that illness, which more than likely I'm going to assume he did. So the only fatalities outside the mainland were the Chinese man in the Philippines and a 39-year-old man in Hong Kong. Nearly 35,000 people have been infected. Okay, let me slow down because I know this may sound scary, but 35,000 people have been infected by the new strain, which is believed to have emerged in a market selling wild animals in Wuhan last year before spreading across China. And I'm going to get into that. So it was like what I said. People had went around talking about bats, but I think it's more complicated than that. In the poor countries, there's a market which is sort of, I would say, like a black market, because it was supposed to be against the law, but there's a selling of wild exotic animals. And I remember, I say it was about maybe a year or two ago, I watched a documentary about a particular animal or creature, which it cost a lot of money if you go to the certain Asian countries to buy and consume or eat this animal at a restaurant. I mean, like thousands and thousands of dollars. And so it's supposedly against the law to eat this animal. And so they went on an undercover sort of documentary to see who and what restaurants still sell this wild animal. And so I believe it's more than just the bats. I believe there's other wild animals possibly, but the main one is called the pangolin. And so it goes on to say that the epidemic has prompted the government to lock down cities, homes, the home to tens of millions of people as the anger is beginning to mount in its handling of this crisis, especially after the whistleblowing doctor who tried to warn people fell victim to the virus himself. So the vice premier, Sun Shulian, I believe it is Shulan, on a visit to the quarantine Wuhan this week, instructed officials to take a wartime approach on this issue as they implemented a drastic measure that included combing the city for feverish residents. So basically, in the epicenter of where it's happening, it's sort of like if you would say like almost like where the whole city's on lockdown, like a martial law. They're trying to see who all has symptoms of this virus, and you must not leave out because it spreads rapidly. So while the World Health Organization set to give the disease a name within days, China's National Health Commission said it would temporarily call it the novel coronavirus pneumonia, and so or what they call the NCP in short. Hong Kong's quarantine. So Hong Kong began enforcing a 2-week quarantine for anyone arriving from the mainland China under the threat of both fines and jail time. And these are the terms. So this is what happens if you don't follow the quarantine laws in Hong Kong. So most people will be able to be quarantined at home or in hotels, but they will face daily phone calls and spot checks basically to see what reactions their bodies are giving off if they have any types of symptoms. So the financial hub has 25 confirmed cases with one patient who died earlier this week. So the virus has revived memories of the SARS outbreak that killed 299 in this semi-autonomous city, leaving profound psychological scars and saddening of residents with deep distrust of authorities in Beijing, who initially covered up this outbreak as well. So it was sort of similar where they waited and they knew what was going on and they didn't alert the people in time. So this is sort of being taken as the same thing but worse, because a lot more people are dying of this one. So, and they have not found anything to stop it. So in the last week, Hong Kong has been hit by a wave of panic buying, with supermarket shelves frequently emptied and a stable of goods such as toilet paper and sanitizer. A lot of the sanitizer, the rice and the pasta, a lot of those things are gone now. So similar scenes were seen in also Singapore on Saturday. The shoppers cleared the grocery store shelves after the city-state, which has 33 confirmed cases, that raised its alert level over this virus. And so China has expanded its own measures far from epicenter, with the city's 100 kilometers from Hubei telling residents that only one person per household can leave the house every 2 days to buy like supplies and things they need for their house. So on Saturday, Shanghai became the latest jurisdiction to order residents to wear masks in public places, warning that those who don't cooperate with this rule seriously dealt with, or will they'll be seriously dealt with accordingly to the law. And so there's a lot of anger over the government's handling of this health emergency that has erupted on social media even on Friday after the death of this doctor who was supposed to be the whistleblower, the one who was trying to warn people about how severe this virus was. A Wuhan doctor who was silenced by police after he had raised the alarm about this emerging virus threat in December. So he had already seen this coming, or foreseen this coming back in December, and they silenced him. So the governments responded by sending an anti-graft body to Wuhan to launch an investigation after the death of Li Wenliang, an ophthalmologist who contracted the disease while treating a patient who had this disease. So the cruise ship that is quarantined, other governments around the world have hardened their defenses as well, with several countries banning arrivals from China, while major airlines have suspended flights. New cases have emerged abroad. The 5 British nationals, including a child testing positive for the virus after he was staying at the same ski chalet in France. So there was a ski chalet and he contracted it. So Asian cruise ships have become a focal point as well. So 64 people on board of what is called the Diamond Princess off of Japan's coast have tested positive, and a passenger aboard the ship have been asked, or other passengers have been asked to stay inside their cabins to prevent new infections from spreading. And so that is what has been happening. So, underneath this article is like more than 1,180 responses. So it is really getting crazy. And then I wanted to go over here to what I was talking about a little earlier. And so this article is about this particular incident, the coronavirus. The pangolin may be responsible for spreading the deadly virus to humans. So it's not for sure, but they claim that it could be a possible vector. So China's deadly coronavirus outbreak could have spread from bats to humans through an illegal traffic of pangolins. Okay, so the world's only scaly mammals, which are prized in Asia for food and medicine, Chinese researchers say. So pangolins are among Asia's most trafficked mammals, although they're protected by the international law because its meat is considered a delicacy in countries such as China, and its scales are used in traditional medicine, the World Wildlife Fund has said. In the video above, the coronavirus response across Asia. So this latest discovery will be of a great significance for the prevention and the control of the origin of this virus, South China Agricultural University, which led the research, said in a statement on its website. The outbreak, which has killed more than 700 people in the mainland China, is believed to have started a market in the city of Wuhan, in central Hubei province, that also sold live wild animals. Now remember I said it's probably more than just the bats. It's just like the gamey food, the live food, the food that isn't cooked, the food that's jumping on the plate. I've seen documentaries where they show sometimes street food and you see things that look like they haven't even been cooked and they're just moving around on the plate, and those are delicacies in some of these countries and they've been consumed. And so this is where a lot of these things end up transmitting viruses to humans, and unfortunately this is where a possible vector of where this virus could be coming from. Could be coming from a number of things, but This is where they say it also could be coming from as well. So health experts think it might have originated in bats and then passed to humans, possibly via another species, okay, by way of another species. So the genome sequence of the novel coronavirus strain separated from pangolins in the study was 99% identical to that from the infected people. So China's official Xinhua, so I may not pronounce that correctly, so sorry for that. News agency reported adding the research finding that pangolins to be the most likely intermediate host of this disease. So this is what a pangolin looks like, and so it's it's like thousands and thousands of dollars if you go to some countries to have them to make it as a delicacy dish. And so I saw this in a documentary, and it's supposed to be outlawed, and you could go to jail and receive time for doing this. But some restaurants, you have to have like a code to let the people in the restaurant know that this is a particular dish that you want to pay for. It's a lot of money in those countries, and the certain restaurants that are doing this are making these type of dishes illegally, but they do it because it's a big market and it's a lot of money involved in it. And unfortunately, this is where these diseases arise from. But Dirk Pfeiffer, the professor of the veterinary medicine of Hong Kong City University, cautioned the study was still a long way from providing that pangolins had actually transmitted the virus. So they're still not for 100% sure, but I would bet this. My own opinion is that most of the food, not only pangolins or bats, is a lot of things that if you even look at some of the documentaries about some of the street food, it's like live food jumping and moving around on the plate. It's not even cooked. So it could come from, like I say again, a number of things. And it has, like I said, no real nutritional value whatsoever, but you can only draw more definitive conclusions if you compare prevalence of the coronavirus between different species based on representative samples, which these almost certainly are not, he said. So even then, a link of humans via food markets still needed to be established, Pfeiffer said. So they're still looking into what's the cause of this. So this is where, I think too, they also mentioned something about the SARS, the bats having to do with the SARS. So it's a whole lot of stories that have been floating around, but I will say this, it is believable that, some of the foods, the gamey and the wildlife, the exotic foods that, come from some of these places that they don't even know if these animals carry certain diseases are being consumed in these places, and they're on the black market in these countries, and they're like really pricey. And you have to there was a guy, he was in a restaurant, and only certain restaurants will make it, and you have to know a specific code language to ask for these types of foods, and you have to be prepared to shell out quite a bit of money for them to prepare it, because there's the risk of jail time and punishment and the law coming down on you because it's a wildlife creature that is being consumed and you're paying a lot of money for it. And there's a racket going on in some of these countries with this particular animal here. So I'm going to play this little clip. I don't know what's all in it, but maybe it'll explain a little more about it than I could.
There's only one clue that could save her life.
This has got to be a hoax.
So this is like a commercial. After
this
the
week
commercial,
on 7.
we'll go into more detail about this animal. It doesn't look very attractive at all. I mean, it's kind of a weird looking creature. I was thinking it looked more like a reptile of some sort. but it's called a pangolin. So I don't know if the video will play correctly or not. I'm just going to give it a few more minutes. It seemed like it was a really short clip. It didn't take very long. I think the longest maybe 3 minutes. You might just basically say everything that I said that was read in the article. So it just shows you probably the animal and how, its habitat, and maybe maybe it goes into detail. If I'm not able to actually the video, if it does not really play, then maybe you can find this article. It's out of the AAP, which I believe is Associated Press, and it goes into more detail about this particular animal. Maybe you can research it yourself, but it doesn't look like this disease is slowing down. Yeah, it says there's an error in this. And two, maybe other people are looking at. Maybe there's a lot of internet traffic of people looking at this, because a lot of people have been concerned lately about where the spread of this disease virus has come from. So there could be a lot of people trying to research and look all this stuff up. They're, always looking for updates. While that is loading, if it doesn't load, I'll move on. But I'm gonna skip this. I think this goes into something as well too. I don't know. Let's see here. No, that looks like something else. That's not what I want to talk about. That's Democratic debate. But anyway, I'm gonna turn that off. So what I did see is that recently, the doctor who died of the coronavirus, he was awarded money, and so he's dead now. But I guess the money goes to his family, I believe. It's sad though, but a lot of people are angered on social media. A lot of people are upset about the handling of this thing. Also, I'm seeing this article about Xi Jinping has turned invisible during China's coronavirus epidemic, likely to cover his back in case things go badly wrong. So that it's talking about, him not really being out and and talking about it more. And so people are really angry is what I've been hearing. And so China has framed its fight against the Wuhan coronavirus as a national struggle and the people's war. And so it's pretty scary. So the outbreak of the deadly Wuhan coronavirus is sorely testing the Chinese Communist Party's grip on power. And so they're even putting politics involved in this. So citizens have turned their anger on their rulers, accusing the government of covering up the epidemic in its early stages and days when it was starting. And the country's leader, the president, Xi Jinping, if I'm pronouncing it incorrectly, I'm sorry. So he is nowhere to be found right now. So he is like in hiding, is what they think or assume. Or he just is not trying to be out because there's so much anger over this. Okay, it says X has issued multiple statements about the virus, characterizing the battle against the disease as a patriotic national struggle, but has made no public or on-camera appearances at this time. So he has called the fight against the coronavirus a people's war that requires resolute action, according to the state media reports. Multiple officials have praised Xi's leadership in their speeches and meetings about the virus, but Xi XI, I don't know if I'm saying correctly, has not been seen on the front lines once again. So instead, he has sent his right hand man, Chinese Premier Li Keqiang or Piang, in the late January. Okay, so I'll just call him Lee. He's visited Wuhan, his right hand man, where the virus had originated, to rally workers at a local hospital and at a construction site for a new hospital. And the hospital, the panic built and to accommodate more patients because people are, rallying around all of this right now. So you see everybody's faces are covered, and it has caused a lot of hysteria. Even here in the States, here in the US, people are panicking. So I know that I've been talking about these countries, but people here are panicked. So I don't think the video is going to play because I don't hear it, but people are panicking here because let's talk about this. People are worried that people are going to try to sneak out of these countries, and they know they're sick. They're going to get on planes. They're going to get on a train. They're going to get on some mode of transportation and try to escape these countries and get out and spread it to a lot of other people. And there's already been some planes that have arrived here, even in California, where they have tried to quarantine some people on some, I believe they're military bases. And so this is pretty serious. And already in those countries, it hasn't even been a good month, and 700 people have died of this virus. And from what I had read, the people who are the most vulnerable are people who have a compromised immune system, if they have pre-existing illnesses, and a weak immune system, and then people who are older. And I also read that it's possible that even people who are not sick, that if you're in healthy condition, you can still possibly be a victim of contracting this virus. And it sounded like one of the people who explained about this virus that it was not that hard to spread it. And I know some people have been trying to look up, okay, how can you get it? And what are the signs and the symptoms? But I've heard different things from people who have said that they researched that it's like having a flu or a common cold. It's very inconspicuous. It starts off as something that you relatively don't even realize how serious it is until you start reaching a fever, and the fevers just seem like they won't go down, they won't go away. Then I've heard other people say that it's something where people go into convulsions and seizures because they are being, victimized by this some kind of way. They picked it up from people coughing. And I'm like, a virus is something that you have to let take its course. It's just like, something that doesn't have a cure. It is not something that you can just take a medicine for and it's gone. You still initially have it. You have to control it or keep it at bay. And so just like some of the other viruses, like the AIDS HIV virus, that if you are in the early stages, they have found medicines to control that so it doesn't reach its full potential stage where it can become deadly. And what is not actually that virus that kills, what I've heard is more like your body, its immune system breaks down to where it's so weakened that anything out there, colds, any flus you catch, you could die, have pneumonia and die from. And that's because of the HIV that turns into what is AIDS. When your immune system is extremely compromised, your body's susceptible to all these other illnesses. And so this virus here sounds like what people are saying, it's like having like a really, really bad flu that can turn to something like pneumonia or high fevers, chills, and whatnot. So it seems like fever is associated with this one, high fevers, because your body kicks in your immune system. Fever is like trying to fight. That's the sign of trying to fight off this horrible infection. And so if the fever is just very high, it's because it's working overtime trying to fight off this infection that just they can't get rid of. And so you can be in probably a regular health and still somehow contract this. I'm thinking on buses, people in restaurants, people in crowded spaces. I guess if you're going to places where most people from these countries frequent, LAX that's the reason why a person who I know that was working or is still working at LAX is really heavily concerned about the safety of them being in an environment where people are coming and going. So I believe that's why they are suspending flights. A lot of the ticket sales have dropped going and coming, traveling to these countries because of the fear. You're in an airplane that's closed up, it's sealed up. The air condition and all that is recirculating air, I'm sure. People are worried that they could breathe this in. Somebody's coughing, somebody's sneezing, people that whatever is coming out of their mouth, if they sneeze, the 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 droplets are being spread all in that space, the airspace where people are sitting. And I'm sure that if it's in people's saliva, if it's in their bodily fluids, and if you sneeze it out, then a lot more people can get it. And so it's very scary. And so this is the reason why they're trying to quarantine people, and they're trying to say that it has a 2-week incubation period. Like if you do contract this virus, that like after about 2 weeks, if you don't see any of the symptoms, that's when they would assume you may not have it. But I don't think they're really for sure. So right now, everything is on high alert. I know that the ports are on high alert here in Los Angeles because people can travel by a lot of ways and try to, board other than just planes and trains. They can board, like they say, ships, boats, things like that. There's other ways to get from one place to another. You wouldn't believe. But anyway, having said that, yeah, so let me leave it on this picture here. But this is what I'm seeing in LA. A lot of people with these masks on in certain places. Not as many restaurants are being frequented now because people are afraid. You don't know who's back there cooking your food, if they've traveled recently, if they've gotten this virus, and they may not even be aware of it. But this is the video I was trying to play, and according to this, I guess it's not playing well. So yeah, so this animal called the pangolin, and so this is the thing that people are most worried about. They said the pangolin may be, let's stress that, it may be responsible for being a vector of this coronavirus. This is another also related article. This is how the animal looks. And so the new virus is believed to have originated in bats, but researchers have suggested there could have been an intermediate host in the transmission to humans. So after testing more than 1,000 samples from wild animals, scientists from the university found the genome sequences of viruses found in pangolins to be 99% identical to those of the coronavirus patients. The official Xinhua News agency has reported this, and so this is what this animal looks like. And so he doesn't look very attractive, like I said. So the pangolin is considered the most trafficked animal on the planet. More than 1 million have been snatched from Asia and Africa African forest in the past decade, according to the International Union for Conservation of Nature, and they are destined for markets in China and Vietnam. And so, where their scales are used in traditional medicine, despite having no medical benefits, their meat is bought on a black market. Like I said, experts on Friday called the Chinese scientists to release more data from their research, simply reporting that similarity between the genome sequence of the viruses is not sufficient. Said that James Wood, a veterinarian medicine professor at University of Cambridge, but Wood said the results could have been caused by contamination from a highly infected environment. So we would need to see all the genetic data to get a feel for how related the human and pangolin viruses are. So this was said by Jonathan Bell, a professor of molecular virology at the University of Nottingham. So China in January ordered a temporary ban on the trade of the wild animals until the epidemic is under control. So that doesn't sound good. Let me read that again. China in January ordered a temporary ban on the trade of the wild animals until this epidemic is under control. Now, what else could these animals be carrying that could also cause diseases to spread? I don't think a temporary ban is a good idea. I think it should be a permanent ban, but that's my opinion. But the country has long been accused of conservationists of tolerating a shadowy trade in endangered animals for food and its ingredients in traditional medicines. And so this has been an ongoing thing. So I told you a couple of years ago, I saw a documentary that was saying that there was a black market for pangolins and that you had to use like a code language to go in restaurants who specifically prepared these meals, and it was worth lots of money. The price for this was a lot of money, and so that's the reason why it's a black market thing. So the country has long been accused of this, and so a price list that circulated on China's internet for the business of the Wuhan market showed menagerie of animals and animal-based products, including live foxes, crocodiles, wolf puppies, giant salamanders, snakes, rats, peacocks, porcupines, camel meat, and other game. 112 items in all. So the SARS, severe acute respiratory syndrome virus that killed nearly 800 people in China and Hong Kong in 2002 and 2003 also has been traced to wild animals as well, with scientists saying it likely originated in bats, later reaching humans via civets. So working to end the trade in wildlife can help to resolve some of the long-term risks associated with animal reservoir and zoonosis, Wood said, referring to the infectious disease that can be passed between animals to humans. So this is where a lot of this is coming from. So I'm going to leave it on this picture. He doesn't look attractive at all. I'm like, what the heck? But anyway, this is what the pangolin looks like. And so I know this is the one that I noticed. You could even, like, when they prepared the dish, you could see, like, this thing, he has, like, some big nails. It's like scaly skin. And you could see it. I think I saw where they had something on a menu, like pangolin soup or something. It was gross. Well, in my opinion, I thought it was gross. But you could actually see parts of the animal in the whatever it is that they prepared. It was pretty gross, but it was a lot of money. You spend a lot of money. Whoever seeks these dishes out, they spend a whole lot of money to pay for these dishes. And the reason why they use code language, you have to use a specific code language to get these dishes, because really it's against the law. And there's stiff penalties if you are the person that's preparing these foods, or if you're the person that's going and trying to spend a lot of money. To look out and buy these type of dishes. But anyway, with that being said, I'm gonna let this video go. What do you think about this? Yeah, I think it's whatever, wild gamey animals. Like I said, it was 112, probably even more than that, I would believe. And it's mostly like in the poorer countries or in countries where they have this fascination for eating like exotic foods. I guess like maybe trying weird stuff. The reason why I saw the documentary is because I was kind of like looking at all these things because I don't know if you ever seen this guy. His name is not the Zimmerman from the trial that had to do with Trayvon Martin, but there's this guy who his name is Zimmerman as well, but he goes around the world trying all these exotic foods. I mean, he's tried stuff like from bull nuts to like like dead frogs, which some people I've heard said that they like eating frog legs and things like that. But things like vole, he's gone to countries in Vietnam, I think, and places where in vole. Let me tell you, vole is a type of rat they're big rodents, and they're raised, and they skin them and cook them just like barbecue or grill them just like you would chicken, and cut them up in little pieces. And when I saw that, and I don't want to scare people, but it may scare you, but here, like in Los Angeles and California, places you've seen the little restaurants like Hong Kong fast food restaurants or Chinese fast food restaurants, where they have the chow mein and the rice and the noodles and all that kind of stuff. And then you see all of the little meat choices, but all the meats are chopped up in little squares. And I kid you not, the bowl looked just like what you'd see in some of the fast food restaurants that are here, that people, they get those nice little plates of chow mein and the noodles and the vegetables and then the orange chicken and all that. And a lot of that vole, the rat meat, was basically, like they said, it tastes like chicken. Who knows? I think it's a cheaper type of meat. It's a lot more plentiful, and it's easier to mask it as chicken. And so I know it's creepy and scary, but I wouldn't be surprised if some of the fast food restaurants actually have that type of meat and they just pass it off as chicken, but it's really rodent meat. And they've skinned it and cooked it up and seasoned it up, and you just don't know the difference, and you're used to eating it. If it's gamey, I think people assume if it's gamey or has a certain taste that it isn't chicken, but I know sometimes the chicken is sort of suspect. If it doesn't have those bones that look like it's chicken, and it's just you see meat in squares, you really don't know what type of meat that really is. Also, there's a type of dog that is raised where people will eat that and chop it up and eat it. And so there's certain animals. I know there was another documentary I was watching. This is about food, exotic foods, where it's actually guinea pig. And that is also eaten, like chopped up, skinned, and prepared and eaten. Spatchcock, where they open it, split it open, and you think that, oh, if they cut off the legs and all that, if they cut it up in squares, you wouldn't know that it's actually another form of a rodent type species that you're eating. And so I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know if anybody has a good memory, but I remember one time, I don't know which restaurant this was. I don't know if it was Burger. I think it might have been Burger King. And this was years ago, where Burger King, I believe it might have been Burger King. It was one of these fast food, like really popularized fast foods here in the States, that was serving horse meat for their burgers. And the horse meat was actually a lot cheaper than the burger meat, and it was more plentiful. And then I think the Animal Society got involved and some other people, and they got in big trouble because it was killing horses, and then it was using that meat, and it was a big thing that was going on. It was really crazy, but some people got in big trouble for it, and I believe that a lot of people stopped going to those restaurants for a while because they're afraid. They were thinking, we're not actually getting real burger meat, we're getting horse meat instead of what we would assume to be steak meat. And so it was really crazy. But who knows what's in the foods at some of these restaurants, these fast food restaurants that are little like hole in the wall restaurants that you just walk in unassuming, not really knowing. You think in your heart, okay, they're serving us chicken, they're serving us beef, they're serving us the real deal here. You don't really know if, those foods are what they really are. It makes you think now that you're seeing all of this. And who knows, that could be another reason why some people get sick, because they don't really know what they're eating, and they're selling them these type of foods, putting things in medicines or foods, and you didn't even know, and now you've contracted these viruses. But that's just something to think about. Having said that, like, comment, subscribe, and thank you for listening. Hopefully they will find some way to control this, because the numbers of people that are dying are continuing to rise.